Now, more of Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project, the only show directly addressing the problems and solutions for Illinois. Now, from AM 560, here's Dan Proft.
Dan back with Pat on this edition of Rising, and Pat, Bruce Rauner, former Governor Bruce Rauner, has a new ad up this week featuring a lifelong Democrat who is supporting Rauner.
I'm Ann Wedner, and I'm a lifelong Democrat. In 1972, I went door to door with my mom to support the Equal Rights Amendment. Today, I'm not happy with Washington, but I'm also heartbroken about Illinois. We have to fix our financial problems, and Bruce Rauner is the only candidate with the courage to do it. Yes, Rauner is a Republican, and I'm a Democrat. But this isn't about party politics. This is about saving our state.
Yeah. The only thing I believe is that she's a Democrat. But she's also a Democrat who was on Rauner's payroll for $50,000 in consulting fees last year. And she's also a Democrat who pulled a GOP primary ballot 4 times. So, boy, I don't know how persuasive that is, but this is what the ads featuring former Governor Bruce Rauner's wife, Diana, are trying to do. This is what he did to some extent in 2014. And because he had the luxury of running against the worst governor in the country, he thinks that's what the difference maker was. And now that he is the worst governor in the country, he thinks that's what the difference maker will be again. And I think he's wrong.
So the problem, first of all, I don't understand why they continue to think that Diana Rauner is a political asset. She's not a political asset. She may have been 4 years ago, but she isn't anymore. People know too much about her now, right? Things have changed. That ad doesn't make any difference whether that woman is an actual Democrat or a part-time Democrat or whatever, because there's not enough Democrats out there to make up for the fact that there's no enthusiasm for him in his base of voters. So he has no chance of bringing enough Democrats over anyway. So they're trying to appeal to Democrats, and what he should have done instead, which I think he still should try to do in the last month, is come up with issues and thoughts that will sort of bring his base back to him instead of trying to pick up a few Democrats. I don't think either is going to work, Dan. I'm not making the point that either is going to work, but I think he has a better shot at the latter than the former.
He doesn't want to do that, though, because he told the Illinois Chamber this week that, boy, I got to tell you, holding the center has been incredibly hard here as governor. Done my darndest, held it as firmly as I can, but holding the center in today's American politics and Illinois politics, tremendously difficult. We'll stay the course. We'll stay strong. Stick to what I firmly believe is right, so on and so forth. And then he told Rick Pearson, I assume over beers, because I don't know how else Rick Pearson communicates with anybody if alcohol's not involved.
Could have been whiskey.
It's true. That the problem in Illinois is the extremes controlling things. The extreme, well, I know you're not in charge, but the extremes, socialists aren't really in charge of Illinois. The kleptocrats of always are. And what I guess he means by extremes, he means conservatives. This is a guy who loves destroying whatever base he had. Is there a conservative reformer in charge of Illinois that I'm not familiar with? A leader of one of the caucuses, a leader of the state party, obviously not the governor. In point of fact, he's projecting again. It's a nice little trick. His buddy Barack Obama used to do it all the time. He's the extremist. He's the most extreme governor in Illinois in U.S. history when it comes to taxpayer funding of abortion. He is about the only Republican governor in the country who would have signed sanctuary state legislation. He saw a third of the caucus that he finances through that welfare queen, Jim Durkin, who's, by the way, listed his house in Western Springs for sale. I'll help him move if it's out of state. Watch a third of that caucus vote for the largest income tax increase in Illinois history. He's completely beholden to the cultural Marxists when it comes to junk science on gender and junk science on just about everything else. In point of fact, Rauner is not a centrist. He's not a Republican. He's a vacuous, individual who has allowed himself to become a tool for the cultural Marxists that his wife, to whom his wife likes to affiliate.
Yeah, so she's definitely a leftist. There's no question there. You know, the word extreme in politics, Dan, is meant only for conservatives, and it's a slur. I mean, it's a slur, and it's meant to sort of paint this broad brush across the spectrum so that you can kind of say, well, we're not that icky them. I'm trying to stay away from those folks. I think the other thing is, and you made the point, it's not extreme on the other side either. These are transactional Democrats, right? These are people
Madigan and Cullerton are ideologues.
They're running policy for business transactions.
J.B. Pritzker's an ideologue.
These are financial This is all this is. This is the Richard Daley was like this. This is the financial transactions using government to benefit us economically, and that's all this is. The idea that there's ideology attached to this is insane. That goes to our earlier point. Well, you think AFSCME's given $800,000 because they care about all these other issues? No, they care about the money. This is all about the money. And Rauner, when he had an opportunity, unfortunately, didn't stand up long enough on the issue of the money, and that's what matters.
And he finds himself in third place after his betrayals and this curious campaign. He just turns out to be a terrible candidate. He just doesn't have the skills to stage any kind of comeback. He was able to overwhelm the field with his money in 2014. Now that is being visited upon him in another ironic twist of fate. But Rauner's in third place, according to University of Illinois Springfield NPR poll. Pritzker 35, undecided 27, Rauner 23. Someone else is nipping at his heels at 15. NBC had him down 17. Basically, the race hasn't moved since I surveyed it right after the March primary because the story hasn't changed. The arguments haven't changed to the extent they're even discernible arguments. You got the jolly fat guy who wants to wear the sash and is just trying not to trip over himself. And you got Bruce Rauner, who's kind of trying to reinvent himself into something different every week while he runs around pandering to whoever he's in front of at the time and pretending that he can just erase the last 4 years and not account for it at all. So, there's no excitement here. Then you overlay the Chicago mayor's race, which is sort of the first type of mayor's race like this that we've had with a cavalcade of candidates and an open seat in a century. And I don't even think that anybody's paying attention to Pritzker and Rauner. They just see them as a couple of cartoons on TV in between The View or The Chew or The Shrew or their daytime shows, and then that's it.
Yeah, and I don't think the jolly fat guy is as jolly as people think. If you watch that debate, you can start to see what's under the layers of J.B. Pritzker. But secondarily, you're exactly right. I mean, this poll has the undecideds ahead of Rauner. When in the world is an incumbent governor behind undecideds this late in the game? That's a stunning indictment. It's a stunning indictment. It goes to the 2 points, that it's an indictment on Rauner and what the campaign he's running, and the fact that people aren't paying attention, just like you're saying. They're looking past it. They're not even decided, particularly since they know Rauner. So if he pulls this off, it'll be something. I'll tell you that.
There's no chance. And I mean, it's also an indictment of this fiscal conservative social moderate blather that you get from surrender Republicans. This guy had 23%, 27% according to NBC, down double digits and hasn't moved. Oh, he's a centrist. You got to be a centrist in order to get a majority. 23%. I've never seen a number that low, particularly for a guy who spent $100 million on branding himself over the last 4 years and is an incumbent. I mean, he may find a new low for a Republican nominee for governor in the history of Illinois.
Dan, HB 40 alone is costing him 10 points in this poll. Alone. HB 40 alone is costing him 10 points in this poll because the other candidate or undecided would have moved back to him, and this would be a competitive race at this point. He'd still be losing, but it'd be competitive. That one decision is killing him.
Well, whatever it is, he's a centrist, he's this, he's that. People aren't buying it, and they're not buying that argument. And the Republican Party is on the precipice of taking a real hammering because of the leadership, or lack thereof, from the likes of Bruce Rauner for my lifetime. Falling in love with cult of personality and with checkbooks. That's what we've always done, and now we find ourselves in the worst governed state in American history with a party that is on the brink of extinction. And the question is, after November 6th, who picks up the pieces and refashions the Republican Party into something that is easily distinguishable from the Democrats and worth paying attention to, because it is neither at present.